Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here. Welcome back to another video for Bleeding Edge. If you missed my last video or you haven't been keeping up with the game recently, then next week is a pretty exciting time for Bleeding Edge as there's a spicy new update which brings with it a new character, AZRAEL, a rework to one of my personal favourite characters, Makutu, as well as some other awesome things like custom queues, time of day rotation, boards, emotes, etc. We'll touch on more of that in this video. I do, however, want to take a moment to very kindly thank Ninja Theory for not only sponsoring this video, but also giving me a chance to check out this stuff early so that I can bring you guys some videos. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to let me know in the comments down below what you're most excited for in this upcoming update. And if you haven't seen our video on AZRAEL and you want to see what he's like ahead of him dropping next week, then also check the video over on the channel. Now to begin with, let's talk about Makutu. I've already done a character guide for him, so this isn't going to be a complete breakdown. If you want to see that, you can find it over on the channel. But in this video, I want to talk about his rework. If you've used Makutu in the past, you'll know he's a pretty awesome character. In fact, he's my favourite character. However, for any of you that have used him, you're probably painfully aware that he was a little bit underpowered, and if you wanted to really get sweaty in your games, then chances are you subbed him out for one of the other tanks. Well, thanks to this rework, he now hits hard, moves faster, and overall, he's just a lot more viable. So let's take a look at what's new with what I'm going to call Maku 2.0. First up, general stuff. Makutu now moves at the same base speed as other fighters, so this means when he's in his aura stance, which is the healing stance, he can now keep up with other players. Previously, you would have switched to the Pepeke stance to provide a movement speed buff, so this used to be pretty integral to getting around. Well, with the new and improved Makutu, Pepeke stance has actually gone and has now been replaced with the Hueki stance. This new stance is your offensive stance. When in this mode, all your outgoing damage is increased by 20%, with a further 10% if you use the default killer mod, and you do still get a 10% movement speed boost when you're in this mode too. So now, this second stance isn't just used to get around, it's actually used to add some more potency to your attacks. This goes hand in hand with the fact that you've also now received an 11% damage increase to your combos. Your attacks are also slightly faster to execute, and you can slide around further towards your target whilst attacking. So overall, this is basically just a big recipe for more damage. It's also worth noting that while in this Hueki stance, if you perform an uppercut, you can now send tanks flying too. Previously, this wasn't possible, but now you can juggle them too. Furthermore, your uppercut can also be used to parry charging attacks, so there's that added bonus. Me actually getting gameplay of a parry is probably just as common as seeing a dodo in the wild, it's just not going to happen, but if you guys can do it, then it's an option. Outside of this, your barge move has a slight increase to the hitbox along with better steering, and your Legate move now provides a much more substantial speed boost, plus alongside the cleanse provided by the move, you and nearby allies are also immune to movement impairing effects whilst it's active. Now, turning our attention to one of the other big notable changes, which is Repellent. The move you previously used to push enemies away, it still functions in a very similar manner, but there are now two parts to it. Repellent is now only available if you are in the aura stance. It pushes enemies back further, has increased range, and also now slows enemies slightly too. Meanwhile, if you're in the Hueki stance, this move instead changes to Attractive, which will then pull enemies in instead of push them away. So since the Hueki stance is all for damage, and you now have a way to pull people in close, you can now switch between offense and defense on the fly, which is incredible. Outside of that, the other main change for Makutu is your Katamari Super. This has had a speed increase, an increase to the hitbox size, a damage increase, a cooldown reduction, and it even knocks enemies back further. So now it might be a little bit more compelling to use when choosing your supers. So, what do you guys think? Any Makutu players out there getting excited? Let me know any questions you might have in the comments down below, and let me know what your thoughts are on this rework. However, that's not all. I did mention that this update also brings with it more updates. Maps will now randomly select between a variety of lighting options depending on the time of day. There's a new queue system, allowing teams to enter queues with shared passwords, making it easier to set up custom games with your friends or for tournaments. And there are also new boards, new emotes, bug fixes, balance changes and more. Essentially, next week is going to be a very good week if you're a Bleeding Edge fan. So be sure to jump in and check it all out. But for the time being, that is a rundown on what else you have to look forward to in the update and Makutu's rework. Again, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't seen AZRAEL in action, definitely check out that video, and be sure to keep it locked for plenty more.